So what you are looking at is a map of Washington D.C. if it were to be hit by a nuclear ICBM, one of the strongest ones, the Satan-2, that is currently held by Russia. Now, I've got new information that has just been released by the U.S. government. I'm going to be sharing with you the latest on this. Now, take a look. This article is going to be releasing some of the maps. Nuclear bomb map shows the impacts of Russian weapons on major U.S. cities. I'm going to be going through all of these as we're hearing that there is a list of major cities that will likely be hit by nuclear weapons. These will be the primary targets of Russia if they were to strike. So I'm going to be going through this. And in addition to this, I also shared with you in a previous upload that right now we are hearing that FEMA, the U.S. government, has actually released an updated nuclear guide to prevent radiation exposure. We heard that the UK is telling their citizens to get ready. Various nations, now the United States, is letting their citizens know, here are some updates, some guides. If we were to have a nuclear explosion, a bomb to go off in the U.S., here is what you need to take into consideration. And in addition to that, nuclear apocalypse map shows the best and worst U.S. states to live in case of Armageddon. They're saying Vermont is where you want to be. Hawaii, you pretty much have got no chance. So I'm going to be covering all of these updates for you, letting you know what cities to watch out for, how far these blasts are going to reach. If you're in New York, California, Los Angeles, San Diego, Houston, Chicago, a lot of these cities are on the list. I'm going to be covering all of the maps for you. You can see how far the blasts are. You're going to be able to see, is where I live, my house, in the middle of these blasts. Also, they're saying if we do have a warning coming out, you have about 15 minutes to decide what it is you're going to do if you can get out of the blast radius. I'm going to share with you all the latest information coming out. And like I said, these updates just recently coming out in the past couple of days. I know a lot of people saying we've had these updates for quite some time. There's a lot of information out there that's old. These are new ones that have now been recently released with everything that's currently going on. But let us pray that nothing goes this route of all-out nuclear war. However, I'm going to make sure that you have the latest information so you know exactly what is going on. And if you appreciate that, do me a favor. If you take a quick second, hit the like button for me. So we've got 2,200 people live with me, almost 300 likes. If we get half the room to hit the like button, help spread this out further so more people can get the latest information. Somebody's saying they'd rather be vaporized. Yes, I'm going to be sharing with you the circles where it says that if it hits, you will be vaporized. You don't have to worry about it. And also, in addition to that, to stay up to date, hit the subscribe button. It's totally free. Why not? And in addition to that, somebody was asking about resources. They're linked down below. Somebody was asking about my microphone. Yeah, if you are looking to get Black Friday deals on setups, if you're trying to start a YouTube channel or just trying to stock up on supplies, and various Amazon links down below so you can get access. Now's the time to do it with the sales that are currently going on if you wanted to stock up on things. But let me go ahead and get you guys caught up on the latest as to what is going on so that way you can see it for yourself with all the warnings that are currently going out. So first, let's go ahead and start off with this Washington, D.C. map so you can see exactly what is taking place here. So this map that you are looking at, the inner yellow circle is the fireball radius in which everything would be vaporized by intense heat rising to millions of degrees Fahrenheit. This would reach about 15.1 square miles. And again, just to clarify a little bit more detail on this, they are saying that this is estimations on cities. If Russia were to attack with a R-36M2, also known as the SS-18 Satan, this is one of the largest and most powerful heavy intercontinental ballistic missile ICBMs that has ever been built. And they're saying these would likely be the ones that could hit the United States and how far it could reach. And they're saying these are multiple times more powerful than what we saw dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So this map shows first that inner yellow circle. That is the vaporization zone. Millions and millions of degrees Fahrenheit, 15.1 square miles. Everything in that inner circle vaporized. That is the fireball blast that you would see take place, and then you would see that mushroom cloud come out of there. Now, the more moderate blast damage radius is the inner gray circle, covering 442 square miles of blast. That would destroy residents, buildings, and probably cause widespread fire all throughout that inner gray circle. Now, anyone within 2,360 square miles of the explosion, that is the thermal radiation radius. It is the wide orange circle, and you would be at risk of suffering third-degree burns throughout your skin. But it says it's often painless because they destroy the pain nerves, but you very likely will not last too much longer after that due to radiation exposure and burns, which can cause severe scarring, disablement, require amputation. Now, within the light blast damage radius, this is the outermost circle, the wider gray circle, 3,490 square miles from the blast. Glass windows would shatter, and this would be expected to break. That could cause injuries. So you want to be out of the yellow areas. The gray area, you will still feel the impacts of it, but you won't feel the necessary damage that would cause life-ending issues. So this particular one for Washington, D.C. and the U.S. Capitol, where there's given about 24-hour period, there would be 6 million people within any 24-hour period that would get the full blast range of all 4 circles of the simulation detonation. 1.6 million people would lose their lives. 2 million people would sustain injuries. The fireball radius would include all of Capitol Hill. So that is for Washington, D.C. Now, in addition to that, let's go ahead and take a look at New York. So let me know in the comments, do you live in any of these major cities? Do you live in New York? We're going to be covering New York now in detail for you. So New York here, you can see in the New York during any given 24-hour period, and you can see this will reach all the way out to Long Island, 16.2 million people on average would be present in a full blast range. An estimated 5.4 million people would lose their lives, 5.6 would suffer injuries. The light blast damage range would extend all the way to New Brunswick and Stamford for New York. Next up, we have Los Angeles. Los Angeles, some 2.7 million people would lose their lives. 4.3 million would be injured. In any given 24-hour period, there are on average 12 million people in the full blast range, all 4 circles of the simulated detonation. Thermal radiation would hit Santa Monica, Calabasas, Long Beach, and parts of Pomona as well. Next up, we have Chicago. Chicago, in any given 24-hour period, there are on average 7.6 million people in the full blast range of the radius of the simulated detonation for the city of Chicago. There would be an estimated of 1.9 fatalities, 2.5 million injuries, 1.9 million fatalities, 2.5 million injuries. About half of the blast's total area would reach across Lake Michigan. So this one you can see, would go out and would poison the water as well. Up next we have Houston, Texas. This is my neck of the woods here. In Houston, where there are on average 5.3 million people in the full blast range of all 4 circles of this simulated detonation at any given 24-hour period, 1.2 million people would lose their lives. 1.9 million would sustain injuries. And in case you're wondering, I would, where I'm at right now, I would be vaporized. I'm right in the heart of the city. I do have some other locations probably that I could go to. I see the Woodlands is out of that blast range. But where I'm currently at, I would have 15 minutes to try to get out. And I don't know if you guys have been in Houston City before, but 15 minutes, there's no chance from where I'm at to get out of the city. So if you are in the heart of a city, you have got to think to yourself, okay, what am I going to do? And I've only got 15 minutes, they're saying. Now, in addition to that, I'm also going to be covering for you guys what FEMA is saying. The government has released an update as to what you need to take into consideration and the safest states. I'm going to show you that map as well. But let's go ahead and continue on to the next city so you can see an update here. Phoenix, Arizona, and you can see just pretty much all of Phoenix is just gone. Some 972,000 people would lose their lives in Phoenix. 1.4 would suffer injuries. In any given 24-hour period, there are on average 3.8 million people in the full blast range of this simulated detonation in Phoenix. Up next on the list, we have Philadelphia. An estimated 1.6 million people would lose their lives in Philadelphia, where there are on average 5.9 million people in the full blast range of all 4 circles of the simulated detonation. In any 24-hour period, some 1.9 million people would suffer injuries in the city of Philadelphia. Up next, we have here San Antonio. And San Antonio, you can also see just pretty much engulfed by this, much smaller than some of the other cities we've covered. There would be an average of 2 million people in the blast range of all 4 circles of the simulated detonation in any 24-hour given period in San Antonio, where 761,000 people would lose their lives, 754 people would be injured. Up next, we have San Diego. Some 968,000 people would lose their lives in San Diego, while 1.6 million would sustain injuries in any given 24-hour period. There are an average of 4.5 million people in the full blast range of all 4 circles of this simulated detonation, and you can see this would reach all the way down into Mexico. They would feel this blast if it were to hit. And up next we have Dallas, and you can see, wow, this reaches all the way out to Fort Worth. They would feel this blast from this type of nuclear bomb, which, just to clarify again, multiple times more powerful than what we saw with Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The technology that Russia possesses, and the United States for that matter, is multiple times more than what we saw with the last time that nuclear weapons were used. Dallas, in any given 24-hour period, there are around 5.5 million people in the full blast range of all 4 circles of the simulated detonation in Dallas. 1 million people would lose their lives. 1.9 million people would suffer injuries in this scenario in Dallas. Now, things are currently escalating with all of the conflict that is going on, and we have heard that they have actually released, the U.S. government, FEMA, has released updated information on what it is that you need to take into consideration as these blasts, if they were to occur and unfold. And again, these are not all of the cities. These are just some that they have done demonstrations to show you what it would look like if you reside in these cities. Now, let me know, do you live in any of these cities that I've covered? Again, I have covered for you Washington, D.C., New York, Los Angeles. I covered Chicago, Houston, Philadelphia, Phoenix, Arizona, San Antonio, and San Diego. Drop a 1 if you live in any of these cities. Drop a 2 if you live in a different city. Let me know in the comments, but we're hearing that these are some of the main ones that they felt were so significant to take a look at, that they've actually mapped out what the nuclear blast would look like if these ones were hit. So if you are in those cities, drop a 1. If you're not, drop a 2. And again, just to clarify, these are not all of them on the list. I see people mentioning other cities, and yes, as we also saw in that state map as well, they said that if you're in Hawaii, that's probably the last state you want to be if we have nuclear fallout, because the devastation is going to be terrible, and you're going to be on literally on an island while the fallout is happening. It's going to be really bad. You don't want to be in Hawaii, they said, when the nuclear apocalypse hits. Now, while you're dropping those 1s and 2s, do me a favor. If you haven't done so yet, please hit the like button if you appreciate the updates. Also, thank you for the super chat. Righteous for Jesus. Steve, I didn't like you not being on yesterday. Oh, yeah. Family and I went out of town with some friends for a little bit. We didn't get back in time for me to do any updates, but there was a lot that unfolded, so I'm going to be getting you guys caught up. Don't worry. I'm going to be making up for it here in some videos, because there is a lot going on right now with all the conflicts taking place around the world. And we're hearing that there are potentially some ceasefire agreements that could be underway, but we got to see what is going to be unfolding here. Now, let's take a look at this information coming out regarding the radiation guide from FEMA. So again, just to clarify, in case you missed it, we have heard that in the past couple of days, FEMA has recently done an update on their nuclear guide to prevent radiation. Now, we had been discussing this here on the channel, saying, when is the United States going to be, giving some updates to its people? We're seeing the UK, Sweden, Finland, Norway, all of them saying, hey, here's some pamphlets on what to do in case there's nuclear fallout. We're concerned about World War III, nuclear war. Putin said this is global war. A former defense minister for Ukraine said this is World War III. We heard that Germany is preparing to send over 800,000 NATO troops to Ukraine to help fight against Russia, because they said they believe we are currently in World War III right now. And a lot of people were saying, hey, Joe Biden, the U.S., what's the deal? What is going on here with preparing our citizens? So let me go ahead and share with you the latest that has come out, as we do have an update regarding what to do in case of a fallout. Now, this article says, with Russian President Vladimir Putin threatening to use nuclear weapons in the country's war against Ukraine and with the Middle East conflicts involving various groups, the U.S. and its European allies are informing citizens how to respond should a nuclear attack occur. The Federal Emergency Agency, or FEMA, has compiled a 258-page planning guidance for response to a nuclear detonation that begins if